Welcome back to your latest industry recap. Some exciting news surrounding Emirates and an A350ULR, talk on Hong Kong and the potential ban of new Boeing aircraft, and lastly focus on Air Caanda, but why not begin there? The Canadian flag carrier is seeing its relationship with customers worsen following a ruling from the Quebec Court of Appeal. The ruling involving the Canadian flag carrier sees the company now in the position where it must pay CAD 10 million in damages to its customer base. The damages center around the misleading of its passengers, driven by ticket prices that were inaccurately portrayed on its website, with incomplete pricing points. Those initial ticket prices then saw the airline charging more than what was advertised, with undisclosed taxes, fees, and surcharges that further inflated the total bill. Decisions made by Air Caanda have led to the consensus that customers were taken advantage of, resulting in the airline prioritizing its commercial interests over its customers. Ultimately, the case rested on a customer of Air Caanda paying over $100 more than what the airline initially displayed on its website 15 years ago, and this has been a common occurrence throughout the time period after that. As a result, a lack of transparency was perceived between the airline and its customers, which affected decision-making when purchasing airfares and breached, more importantly, the Consumer Protection Act, notably in the province of Quebec. Moreover, the ordering of a $10 million payment represents a change in a decision after it was initially some time ago determined that there was no requirement for Air Caanda to pay damages to its customers over hidden fees, but now that has changed. Recently, there has been a growing emphasis on cracking down on airlines misleading their customers, particularly visible through those hidden fees or other charges that appear to compensate for lower airfares that may look lower on the surface, but by the time you actually reach the payment have a whopping amount of additional fees that bring that price up right back to where it probably should have been for this premium airline. Keen to hear your take on that down below in the comments, but moving on to China's ban on taking delivery of new Boeing aircraft amid worsening political tensions. Well, now reporting from the South China Morning Post indicates that Hong Kong should not necessarily follow suit, and it shouldn't be rejecting therefore the delivery of new planes. We know that new jets are crucial to the growth and renewal of any international or domestic airline. However, the delivery of new planes, specifically those from Boeing, has been thrown into disarray over the last month. Suppose Hong Kong were to follow China's footsteps in rejecting the delivery of new commercial planes, well, in that case, the consensus is that the damage would be considerable to the airlines that call this market home. During the global pandemic, Hong Kong was one of the most locked down locations in the world, and even when other markets began to emerge from local lockdowns and we saw demand return in terms of the aviation industry, well, Hong Kong remained very much tight-lipped about when its restrictions would ease, and as a result, not only was the damage to the public huge, but so was the damage to the aviation sector here. Cathay Pacific, which remains arguably the most recognised carrier from Hong Kong, saw its capacity decimated because of decisions that were made. The collapse of demand for such a prolonged period resulted in 99.9% drops in traffic for the airline, putting it in a position where its financial performance tumbled and raised questions about the airline's ability to survive if restrictions were to be imposed any longer. Cathay Pacific has been able to rebuild following, yes, the adverse effects I mentioned, and is slowly now returning to the way of old, and it's relying on new deliveries from Boeing to help propel it further and capture market share that it ultimately did lose during the height of restrictions in the early to mid-2020s. Several analysts, including those from the Chinese University of Hong Kong and United States-based ones, claim that there is no need for airlines such as Cathay Pacific and those generally in Hong Kong to follow in the footsteps of restrictions by China. Cathay Pacific and even Greater Bay Airlines are expecting to take delivery of many new Boeing aircraft over the coming years, which for them is going to be crucial in helping fuel their renewal and growth ambitions. If this were to not happen, the damage would be colossal. Where do you stand on the matter with Hong Kong and prospective bans on Boeing aircraft? Should they hold off or should they go hard? Over to the final story, and Emirates has, in exciting news, confirmed it'll finally send its next generation Airbus A350ULR to Australia for the first time later this year. Adelaide will become the first city in Australia to receive the long-range A350-900ULR, an aircraft that is capable of flying over 15 hours with a range exceeding 14,000 kilometres. Service to Adelaide with this next-generation A350 is scheduled to commence on the 1st of December 2025, with the airline planning to introduce it across flights EK440 and 441. Adelaide has actually been long planned as a destination to receive the 350. However, when the airline initially put forward its first destinations for when the plane was going to be entering service, Adelaide was missing. Emirates already has a very strong presence across the Australian market. However, the ability to leverage a type such as the A350 is enormous for them as they seek to evolve the destinations that they fly towards without always having to strictly rely on high-capacity aircraft such as the A380 and Boeing 777. While the aforementioned wide-body jets, which have been a mainstay in the fleet for well over a decade, do serve a purpose, they also have in the past restricted route development at Emirates. The A350 will change that. By the end of the year, assuming no further delivery delays, the company's fleet is expected to include 5 A350 long-haul designated jets, enabling flights such as Adelaide to feature without the latest generation equipment, both on the outside and the inside. Emirates is making a pretty big announcement in regards to sending the A350 to Adelaide as part of its efforts to, once again I'll say, introduce the long-range A350-900ULR to its operation. But see, the plane comes with a little bit of a catch. If you're new to the aviation industry and aren't all that familiar with the A350ULR, you'd consider this to be a specialised variant adopted right around the industry. But if you've maybe been around a little bit longer, you'll know that Singapore Airlines had previously championed the introduction of the A350ULR into the global industry, utilising this aircraft on some of the longest flights in the world, such as New York to Singapore. But in terms of other airlines actually having this plane within their portfolio, there wasn't really anyone else. We know Qantas is moving ahead with a highly modified Dash 1000 ULR, but as for a Dash 900 model, there's not been too much other interest. That's because for Emirates, they have designated their A350s into two separate types. The first and currently operational 350 is in the regional configuration. The Dubai-based airline says that the regional configure, the 350, is best suited for cities up to 15 hours away, which encompasses a lot of your markets throughout Africa and Europe, and also into Asia to an extent. However, for longer flights, Emirates confirmed in 2014 that it would take delivery of a long-range version capable of flying upwards of 15 hours. But the thing is, this differs from the A350 ULR. So while Emirates does label this as the Dash 900 ULR, do not consider it to be the one that Singapore Airlines flies. It's not suited for 20-plus hour flights. Rather, the extended range is being made possible thanks to adjustments being made on the inside. The difference is Emirates is opting for a smaller capacity and also the addition of a rest area. Ultimately, the changes being implemented by them will result in a reduction of passenger capacity to 298, with 7 seats removed from both premium economy and standard economy to accommodate the longer range of the aircraft. Keen to hear your take on today's industry developments? Let me know down below in the comments. Thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll see you tomorrow.
And we'll fly.